Welcome back to the Kirklees Guitar School podcast. I'm joined with my co-host, Mr. George Loveridge. How the devil are you?
I'm very well, James. Has this week been a rock or a roll for you? Every week we ask the question whether this week's been a rock or a roll. Has this week been a rock or a roll?
Absolute rock. And I'll tell you why, George, because we reached 1,000 subscribers on the podcast channel.
We did.
So,
fantastic. Achievement unlocked.
100%. So I naively thought when we first set up this channel, I said to everybody on the YouTube, so those of you that don't know, we did Series 1 over on the Lessons channel where I teach all the guitar lessons every Friday. And I said to everybody on there, here's the podcast channel. Couple of weeks' time, we're going to upload his first episode. I'll go over there and subscribe. And let's see if we can get 1,000 subscribers before we post his first episode. And I think we ended up with like 4.
Yeah, but hey, to those 4 of you, thank you very much.
So yeah, it's really so that's really cool, and it just sort of like further cements what we're doing here is a good thing, and how much everyone's getting out of it. We had the Angus Young episode a couple of weeks ago, which has done incredibly well.
Yeah, so to those of you who have joined us, I think there's 50 odd of you, so this is more normal what you get. We do a deep dive on less so gear, actually. We're more technique based and playing, because we spend hours talking about gear, but we are talking about gear with playing, so that's our bread and butter. So welcome along.
So other than that, I've been working on some Pink Floyd stuff this week. I've transcribed and edited. There's 2 videos going out on the main channel over the next week or so for Solo 1 and Solo 2 of Comfortably Numb, and I've
Not
really
many people
enjoyed
do
that.
Solo 1, so good on you.
Yeah, and I sort of thought, rather than sort of bundling it all into one video, I sort of feel that's a good stepping stone for those that want to learn the second solo. So the idea is it'll be up for everybody to watch. I'll put a link in the show notes by the time this goes out. But that's a good stepping stone and a good introduction to then the following Friday, this coming Friday in this time. It'll be a good stepping stone. So yeah, that's been a really good week for me, really productive. What about you?
Funny you mentioned Pink Floyd. I was in Nick Mason's back garden yesterday. Weird thing to talk about. So I was at a track day for a bunch of motoring journalists. When I'm not talking or writing about guitars, I'm talking or writing about cars. Nick Mason is our president of that group, and I've known Nick since about 10 years now. So it was nice to sort of chat to him a bit. I never want to talk about music with Nick because, of course, everyone says, "Oh my God, Comfortably Numb," and wish you were here. But it was nice to chat to Nick about stuff, which was cool. Hit 1,000 subs, which was really nice. Not that we're both counting or watching.
It's a really good it's a really big marker, is that,
it is,
for content creations. It just kind of cements, because we never knew whether this was going to be successful or not, because it's quite a unique,
it is a niche thing,
idea,
but hopefully that's why it makes it successful. The other thing, I was commentating, there's a link, don't worry, I was commentating at Silverstone Race Circuit on Saturday, and Richard Hammond was there talking...
All the name drops
Yeah,
today,
all
Josh.
the name... filming for Discovery Plus, and I had a chat with him, said, would you mind coming for a chat on the microphone later in the commentary box? He said, yeah, speak to my production manager. They said yes. It was a no-show. He didn't turn up, but I was going to ask him about bass guitar, because he is a bass guitar player, believe it or not, and I was going to say, when can we see any bass stuff? So, hey-ho. Never...
Shame.
Maybe, what a shame.
This time next year, Rodders, maybe we'll have enough subscribers where people pay attention to us. So, just before we get into this, what we're talking about today, just a reminder: we are running our live show.
Absolutely,
when and where, George? What are we doing?
It's at the Denbydale Pie Hall, 8th of June, Saturday the 8th,
6th,
Saturday the 6th. Whoops, it was the 8th of November, the last one. That's why that's in my head. So yeah, 6th of June, Denbydale Pie Hall. We're gonna have a live audience. If you like our Decade Discovery series, come along, because we're going to discuss the second half of the 1980s.
Yeah, it's set to be a good show with lots of playing. We're giving away a couple of guitars in that as well.
Of course, yes.
So we try and do a couple of live shows a year. The last one we did was really successful.
It's cool.
And we're hoping that we learned a lot from it, so we're hoping to build from on that. If you would like to come and watch us live in the room, we're doing 2 sets. We're doing this Decade Discovery, and then we're taking a Q&A off the floor and then doing a meet and greet at the end. If you want to learn a little bit more about that, head to the first link in the description, and that'll take you to the event page where you can check out what it's all about and potentially book some tickets. So, very good. What are we talking about today?
So, where are we? We're over there. So today we're discussing which tremolo system is best. Kind of a blunt term, but we've all got different sorts of guitars, and they all have different bits bolted onto the end of them. And we're going to talk about which one should you go for if you're thinking of upgrading, say, from a Telecaster or a Les Paul with a fixed bridge. We're going to look at the history of them, why they came about, the characteristics, how they work, all that good stuff. And we're starting off sort of a day dot, really, for the tremolo system on guitar. We've got Vibrola over here and a Bigsby over there. We're then going to go on to look at a Floyd Rose and your classic Strat 2.6 point trem system.
And I think this is, I know you've got some dates and some sort of like, sort of the chronological timeline of how all this happened. What I really wanted to bring to this episode was most guitars have tremolos, but very seldom I see people in the lesson room use them. And how do I use a tremolo and try and get it into my playing? And if you're potentially looking to purchase a guitar, is a question, do you need one? Yeah, that's the question.
I often find in lessons, if people use it, they kind of do it as a tongue-in-cheek, just wiggle it at the end of a power chord, and it's so much more than that. I mean, you look at Jeff Beck, for instance. So let's start with the Bigsby. That's my favourite trem system of them all. It looks the best. I don't have a guitar with a Bigsby anymore, but you do. So what we got?
Usually, Bigsbys are usually fitted to Gibson-style guitars. I know we've got an Epiphone today, but Gibson S guitars, Gretsch have them.
Yeah.
And as well, and that doesn't sort of exclude Fender. You can get a Fender Telecaster with a Bigsby on it as well.
LPs have them sometimes as well.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, it's more Gibson than Fender, let's say. But I think the Bigsby kind of, in my mind, the Bigsby is the 1950s.
Rockabilly.com.
Vintage, Dwayne Eddy. This kind of like, you'd see those clips of people like Dwayne Eddy where they're picking one string and they'll bring the other arm over and... like Eddie Cochran and all that kind of stuff. I find that the Bigsby, they get a bad rap.
They do.
Why do they get a bad rap?
I think it's because they're only good for one thing, really. I mean, if you play me like a G chord and sort of bring it down a little bit, it's good for that. It doesn't go up. It's one way. It's a one-way ticket, one-way street, I would argue.
It makes me think of things like a...
Rumble, yeah.
But the guitar has already gone out of tune.
Well, I was literally about to get onto that. Intonation, Bigsby's kill your tuning. I mean, if they're set up correctly, you'd have many people, dying on that hill that if they're set up correctly, they'll stay in tune. My old Gretsch, I had a Gretsch G2622T, which looked very much like your Epiphone there. And that was fairly well behaved, but you have to be careful with it, a bit like this with Vibrola, which we'll go into. Another reason they get a bad rap is because they are a sod to set up and tune.
Yeah.
Oh, restring, sorry. Like, you need 3 hands.
Yeah.
I used to restring mine with a capo. I get a string on to keep the tension, because if you take the strings off, that arm that you can see will just flip backwards.
Kind of, we'll get to Floyd Rose later on, but it's a similar kind of vibe, isn't it? It's keep
that tension, and the
tension of the strings balances the bridge. So, but I feel like compared to a Strat, I've got a Stratocaster over there, which I'm gonna demonstrate in a little bit. I feel like the two completely different tools, and that's why I have two different guitars in my arsenal. Like, I have a very complicated relationship with this guitar, and every time it's in the case, I'm selling it, and every time it's out of the case, I'm keeping it. But that's because there's no other guitar in my stable that does the same thing.
The Bigsby sound.
Now, it's a pig when it won't stay in tune. I could definitely help myself. I could look into a little bit more, maybe some lubrication and things, on the bridge and things.
Yes, definitely.
But there's no other guitar in my arsenal that gives you that ruckus kind of... It just sounds like the 50s.
I knew you were going to play a Wiki game. I knew you couldn't help yourself.
But it has that... It sort of adds to the sparkly. It adds this extra kind of... the way I use a Bigsby, bounce is a good way to put it. I'd sort of say flutters.
Yeah.
It's almost like... I mean, we call it a tremolo system or a whammy bar, but you get tremolo on amplifiers as well.
You do.
I almost kind of use it as decoration rather than a focal point of the melody. Now, we are going to get to some guitar players later on, like Mr. Beck and Mr. Marvin, who will use it to alter their melodies. I don't use a Bigsby that way. I use it simply as decoration,
just to add
to sustain chords. I could play something like...
Just as you say, the decoration is the perfect adjective to use.
But it's all about playing delicately. If you're too rough with it,
you're out of tune again. It almost feels wrong because, especially with that being a semi-hollow body, you feel like you're going to go through the guitar.
I do feel like I'm going to bust it if I'm
Bigsby is bolt-on. It's reversible. You could get a tailpiece for that guitar and do the delete.
It's really common. It's really common.
Yeah, likewise, if I wanted to put one on a regular SG or my Telecaster, I could buy a kit and just a couple of bolts and a drill bit, and you're away.
So I think if you're sort of a little bit more vintage inspired, you want the sort of 50s and 60s, well, say more 50s kind of rockabilly, Brian Setzer, people like that.
I mean, to quote Roxette, it is the look.
Yeah.
It just looks great, doesn't it?
I think it's the best looking of the Tremolo systems, personally. Closely followed by what you're sporting over there. So this is a fairly recent acquisition for you, isn't it?
Before we go on to that, would you recommend a Bigsby Tremolo system to someone? Let's sort of score them as we go along, deciding which is best.
I would only buy a guitar with a Bigsby if you have some experience working on guitars with Bigsby, working on guitars, and you're fairly handy, so that you are quite happy to adjust it as you go along. Yep. Or you have another guitar in your arsenal for when it's not playing ball. You can pick something else up, something a little bit more dependable, like a Telecaster. It's like having the weekend sports car in the garage. Yeah. It's that one.
Gets high days and holidays.
Yeah.
So by contrast, another red Epiphone. This is my recently acquired Epiphone inspired by Gibson 61 spec guitar. So this has the Vibrola system. So it's similar to the Bigsby.
Yes.
But it's actually so much simpler. It's really, really simple. So this system that you see here replaced the sideways Vibrola, which was such a weird archaic system by comparison.
Yeah, I nearly sent young George a message because he's got an SG with the sideways Vibrola. Has it gone?
He's done a swap for a Strat.
Has he? Oh,
Sorry,
know more than me.
Welcome back. Yeah, this replaced it, and this by 1964, this was much more people were accustomed to this. George Harrison got his hands on one. This is less vibrato than a Bigsby. I think visually it's as attractive. I mean, this is a pain to keep clean. This big tailpiece. Okay. It's just because it's a big chrome piece of metal. I mean, what do you expect? It works it's essentially, imagine like a spoon. Hear me out, we like a food analogy. The piece of metal is kind of like curved like a spoon would be. And then you've got this, where the arm sits, it hooks onto it. You can take it off when you take the strings off. And all that does, it pushes that piece of metal down. It's so simple. And as a result,
it's 50s technology. It is. Yeah.
Now, you raised a point. You said, what happens when that metal gets brittle?
Because you move a piece of metal and you bend it enough, it will snap eventually, won't it?
Is it a serviceable item? I don't know. If you're maybe Tristan will let us know in the comments if he has a look. But this is very subtle. I mean, I can go for that Wicked Game thing. See, this you want to go up and down to get the same result. I think the Vibrola's got a bit more ambience about it.
I feel like it's more. You can be more sensitive with that because there's not as much going on. I was saying this is quite hard to press down.
You were pushing that down. This is. I'm not going to invite you to feel how stiff this is, but you do have to push it. And again, I'm too mechanically sympathetic to really go for it. As we saw in the intro jam, I was doing more of a embellishments rather. I mean, you can't. It's realistically when I'm teaching with this, or I've used it at band practices, this arm is rested down at the back of the guitar, and I'm not even using it. I'm not even thinking about it. I would recommend it to someone, but just be careful. Like, I've got a student who's 12 and they're looking to buy a new guitar. They love an SG, but they're going to break it. I think they're very delicate and brittle. In terms of maintenance goes, there isn't a lot to go wrong, so I really wouldn't worry about that. It looks pretty, and I would say it's reversible, but if you wanted a standard tailpiece, you would have to drill into it, unlike the other options. So I would go for one. It's my first guitar with a Vibrola, and I just think, personally, because I'm a George Harrison nut, I think it looks great, and especially Angus Young as well.
It's a very good-looking guitar. I'd argue to say I think that's the best-looking guitar in the Epiphone catalogue at the minute.
Yes, they do a plain and blue one as well, which is too much. I thought
about buying. I saw a couple of Gibson versions of that come up for sale recently. And I've thought, I wonder what it'd cost to send it up to Aquas and have it stripped and have it done in Pelham Blue. And I think it'd be a really, really unique, because you can only really get those with the Gibson on the headstock if you're paying sort of Murphy Lab money, which is $4,000 and $5,000, which is too much.
But I think it's because guitars haven't really changed over the years, and if they do change, everyone complains. The Bigsby and the Vibrola screams 50s and 60s, and as a tremolo system, I would honestly give it a score of 5 out of 10.
Right.
Because it doesn't do a lot. I won't want to go upwards with it. Oh, that made me cringe. Didn't like that.
I don't know if you heard that in the room. There was a creak come from your guitar.
Wow, look at that crack down the back of the neck. It's nice, but it's very subtle. But the beauty of this is, though, it doesn't detract from the intonation, whereas the Bigsby does. So I can still play this like an SG should be played and not have to worry. So I would put this on top of the Bigsby, personally.
Okay, I tend
in terms of playability.
I tend to agree, but also you've got to understand in all of this, your prowess as a guitar player, whatever you've got on your knee, you'll make it work. It's not we are not saying never buy a guitar with the Bigsby. That's not what we're saying at all. We just want you to make an informed decision when thinking about tremolos.
So more 60s stuff. This is what I would argue maybe even every player has encountered.
Yes.
There's like pictures of me as a 9-year-old with my Strat tremolo system on my Strat. So what's the crack over there?
So they call it either the 2-point or the 6-point tremolo system, don't they? Which what that basically means is it's how many points of contact the tremolo has with the body. This is a 2-point tremolo.
Mine's a 6-point trem.
Right. I'm not sure about my 60s spec Strat because that's currently up at Aquas having a treble blade put in it.
Oh, yeah, didn't know that.
Yeah,
nice.
So,
you're going to fix the fret buzz as well?
Maybe. I don't know. More to come on that. There's some interesting stuff happening with that guitar and potentially another one. Yeah, we'll talk about that another day. Right. So this is kind of like when anyone thinks about the guitar, when somebody says, "I play electric guitar,"
that's what I can see in my head.
Think of a Fender Stratocaster. Not particularly this Strat, because it's quite a unique combination of colour and fretboard, but something like your Strat before you put that horrible scratch plate on it, a black Strat.
Yeah, or a Sunburst.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Sort of similar to my Sunburst one.
Even red, just the Stratocaster, because everyone wants to be Martin Knopfler, or a lot of people that we teach of the older generation want to be Hank Marvin.
Yeah.
And that's...
Well, funny you should say Hank Marvin. I think Hank Marvin and Jeff Beck, when anybody talks about using the tremolo system, that's
they did it best.
Yeah,
they knew how to use it. I think there's using it and knowing how to. Do you see what I'm getting at?
Well, what they would do is they would blur the lines between the notes by using the tremolo. So let's say that I'm just sort of pulling this out of thin air. So take it what you say. Take it with what I say with a pinch of salt. If I'm playing in the key of B minor, I can play all these notes in the key of B minor. What I like to do with students is I'll say, right, okay, we're going to do some improvisation, but what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to play a couple of notes in this B minor pentatonic box. When you hit this note here, which is the 7th fret on the G string, it's a D note, you've also got this C sharp behind it on the 7th fret, not 5th fret. You've got this C sharp here on the 6th fret. Well, rather than going...
We're going to try and make it with the trem.
Can you... Sorry.
Okay. I like that you're bringing it back up again.
Yeah.
Which is an advantage of that. That feels a lot tighter than the Bigsby.
I set my 2 and 6 point tremolos up so they only go down. I never use tremolos going up, and that's just personally my... What I'm doing is when George says going up, I'm dropping the pitch and then I'm bringing it back up so that the tremolo's level and I'm not actually pressing on it at all.
So you're going to like a negative number back to 0.
Yeah. So what I'm doing there is rather than... Because if you think about it, I could bend up to that note. I'm doing the reverse, but I'm using the tremolo.
It's like a very Eaglesy, but with the tremolo system.
Yeah, it kind of almost like that sort of lap steel G-bender type thing, exactly. Now, people like Hank Marvin and Jeff Beck, Hank Marvin does the whole
It's that. I know I'm stealing your thunder. He's adding it as a decoration at the end.
The lead guitar class are working on the Shadows version of Sleepwalk at the minute, the Friday class,
yeah.
and that's full of it. Now, what because we've been learning loads of Gary Moore. Can't talk about Gary Moore.
Never.
And some sort of like Paul Kossoff stuff as well, where a lot of the vibrato comes from physically playing vibrato because they've got fixed bridge guitars with Les Pauls. Yep. Well, what I'm saying is, rather than using vibrato when you're playing the Shadows stuff with your fingers, I mean, he did use vibrato.
Yeah, of course.
But you could also, like you said, you can also apply vibrato
I think
with
that was a bad example I chose.
Well.
It's more the...
Yeah,
that kind of
I'd
thing.
sort of say just a little bit shallower, but you get
wrong
for the
tool for the job.
purposes. Yeah, for the purposes of explaining it. Now, I think the Stratocaster Tremolo is probably the most versatile, the most stable, and probably the most cherished of all the tremolos.
It is because it's out of the box and it's buy and forget. You just attach, and you can unravel it for when you don't want it.
That's a really good point, actually.
So the Bigsby and the Vibrola, you're kind of stuck. I mean, I can actually unscrew that and disable the Vibrola. It's still there, but I can't utilise it. The Strat, a couple of winds, it's threaded, and it's away. My Strat never has the arm on.
The only disadvantage I feel of the Stratocaster Tremolo, and every tech in the land will agree with me.
Doesn't stay still.
15-year-old James, pulling on it. Yeah. You see people with tremolos, like that guy from Dragon Force picking the guitar by the tremolo, and then all of a sudden, it's not attached to the guitar anymore, and the thread's stuck in the guitar.
Yeah, so...
It's never happened to me, personally, but I've known... I can go up to Aquas, and there's always one guitar in there where that's snapped off, and he's got to drill and tap it out to try and coax it out. So just be wary of. Just don't pull on it too heavily, boys. It'll be okay. So,
and watch your tremolo systems as well. The only other thing about that is, so the Bigsby and the Vibrola work essentially by metal plates moving.
Yes.
These have three springs in the back? I don't know if you've got your back plate on.
Both mine have.
That's a schoolboy error for both of us, isn't it?
Yeah.
Essentially, there are three.
I usually take these off.
Yeah,
and I don't know why this is on, and I don't have one anywhere near I can pinch. There's basically I'll put a
find a picture.
I'll put a picture in post, and I'll put it up. Basically, it uses the bridge physically moves and levers off the points, the 2 or the 6 points, and then you have springs in the back of the guitar that can stretch and give you the movement, and then it snaps back into place. It's a really clever. Clever system.
To say it was designed in the 50s, I think it's stellar.
Yeah,
it's really, and it's out
54.
Must be
54.
It's out of the box, and you don't have to use it, or you can use it, and it's nice to have because every now and again you may think, oh yeah, you know what, I'll put it onto my Strat, and we're sorted. As a tremolo system, it has its limitations, but for overall versatility, I would say the 2 or 6 point trem is one of the best.
I'd agree.
Especially now you've got companies like Vega Trem, if you've heard of them.
Yes.
It's a bolt-on, in and out job, and it essentially turns that into one of these, but with the maintenance of one of those.
Yeah. So I'd if you're wanting to get into using a tremolo, I think this is the only guitar where having the tremolo, I wouldn't recommend. It shouldn't sway your purchase decision whether this has got this kind of tremolo or not.
Yeah.
Whereas the others, I think you just need to consider it a little bit closer. So that's the sort of more traditional, more like what probably everybody's got at home. What's that?
Monstrosity.
What's going on over there?
This is the infamous Floyd Rose. Popular among metal players, glam metal, rock. You mentioned Dragon Force. This was invented by Mr. Floyd Rose in 1976. It was patented in 1979. And by 83, it was the standard for anyone wanting to play heavier stuff. So I think they were made in Japan, and I think Kramer Guitars sold them for Floyd Rose. And think of Eddie Van Halen with his Kramer.
I think as well, just sorry to butt in there, I think it's worth mentioning as well, we talk about guitars having a Floyd Rose just as people talk about like Xerox paper. They're called paper Xerox. And sometimes, like you'll hear me refer to my Ibanez guitar having a Floyd Rose. It doesn't. It's an edge tremolo, which is Ibanez's
version.
take
Yeah,
on
so
the Floyd Rose. So you could say that sometimes. Sometimes you'll hear somebody like us saying, "Oh, it's got a Floyd Rose tremolo," but it's Floyd Rose is a brand, but also a style of tremolo as well. Is that an actual Floyd Rose?
It is a Floyd Rose 100. You can see the stamp just there.
Yeah.
It is a real Floyd Rose. So this is a Harley Benton Max Fusion signature model in holographic finish. So it upsets the cameras every time I get it out. This is a real Floyd Rose. Again, it's got 3 springs in the back, 2 springs actually in the back, but they're chunky springs. This is I'm not going to pretend to know how this works, but it does stuff like this. And I'm still in tune.
Conducive to fretboard acrobatics.
That's how you brand it. So this, as you saw when James was demonstrating that Strat over there, I can still play. I could have done the intro jam on this. It is a bit more sensitive, but at the same time, you can go for this kind of thing, that kind of thing, which it makes you smile. One thing this guitar isn't particularly good at, so those are what we call dive bombs, I would argue, where you sort of pick the note. Sounds cool. You also get what we call flutters, which this guitar isn't particularly good at, where if I play a note, that's something that none of the tremolo systems we've looked at can do.
And they're just not as sensitive, or they simply just can't take the beat.
No, they can't. But this, I can go down, or I can go up, right, a long way. And that's bringing the note. So I was on, let's say I'm on an E note, I can take it down to E flat. I can go down to D if I want. Or I can go up to F sharp.
So you find very virtuosic players like Joe Satriani, Steve Vai. Steve Vai has got a song called Bad Horsey. I think you should all go listen to it because he literally makes the guitar neigh like a horse.
Yeah, he's see if this goes right. Oh. It's just 80s, so you said Bigsby is 50s personified. The Floyd Rose is 80s.
And I think what gives you so much reach on the Floyd Rose system is that the route out a bit of the body of the guitar.
Yes, sorry, yeah, that's a really good point. There's like an ashtray at the back almost, not like an ashtray bridge, where dust falls because I heat this hung up. And that allows it to sit and drop. So imagine it sits there, it's going to drop even further, whereas on a Strat, it's got nowhere to go.
Yeah.
Okay, pros and cons of a Floyd Rose. We've heard the pros. Sounds great.
One more pro I want to add to that. Locking nuts. Now, you'll see George's guitar has these 3 little grub screws at the top of the guitar. Yeah. Now, those are tightened with an Allen key, and what that does is in theory, it stops the guitar from going out of tune. It locks the strings in place by using a metal plate and physically squeezing the string to stop it from moving.
It's great in principle.
And then you have what are those? You've got these little
adjusters. Yeah. So when you restring a Floyd Rose guitar, you need a bottle of something strong and alcoholic with you, or you send it to a guitar tech. You have to chop the end of the string off. You know when you get those little balls at the end, you have to chop them off and feed it in. And essentially, these blocks lock the string in place. And then, And then what I can do from there, I've got these little adjusters which essentially tighten the tension from this end of the guitar, because effectively that's the end. That's as far as the string goes now with the locking nut. So it's almost like a headless in that respect. Problem is with tuning these up, as you clamp. Let's say I tune this up with a chromatic tuner or a clip-on or whatever pedal tuner. Right, my E string is in tune. I now go to clamp it down. It clamps the 2 at a time because you've got 3 of them. You clamp it down. The string then goes sharp.
Yeah.
Because you're putting more tension on the string.
Yeah.
I spent a long time working out with the digital tuner that I can see the frequency and the sense of how many. I think I go down by 20 cents to the point where I tighten it, not to the point where it's going to snap, but really tight so it's then in tune. It's really fickle and difficult.
And you have to be you have to be a tinkerer to really enjoy these. For me, I've got one guitar currently with a Floyd Rose.
A system, yeah.
I don't particularly enjoy them, but there are need for what I do for a living. Sometimes I need that
Well,
sound.
put it this way, I started playing guitar in 2009. It wasn't until 2025 when I bought this. I didn't feel the need to buy one. It's just because I was getting into the 80s, 90s shredder stuff, and that's why I bought it.
What kind of student would you recommend a guitar with a Floyd Rose equipped tremolo?
Someone who loves glam rock, 80s stuff, because it's nice to have. Even a lot of the pop stuff uses it. Someone who's getting quite hot on guitar as a student, if they're starting to play quickly and they're running out of road, chances are, if your guitar's got a Floyd Rose, you've got stainless steel jumbo frets as well, which, coming from a Squire Telly guy, all of a sudden I've got 24 frets and they're stainless steel.
And there's frets.
What the hell? Like, I can play, what, if I want to go into B minor, I can get into the second position of B minor in this octave. I mean, it's a bit of a faff, but they're there. It's reliability. So back to your original question, I would recommend it to someone who's getting quite good, actually.
Right.
And that's not a condescending thing. I can't play stuff that benefits this guitar fully.
So you wouldn't, if somebody's looking for their first electric guitar, you wouldn't recommend them?
Oh God, no.
Right.
I used to teach a vicar who played on the classical guitar.
I remember.
And he said, George, this guitar's been donated to the church, and I've put my hand up for it. Oh, lovely. Got it out of the case. And it's one of these, but with a fire. And he said, is this appropriate? I said, Nick, the vicar, I said, that's like you pulling up to church in a Subaru Impreza rally car.
Yeah.
Like, honestly. And it worked, and he got to know how it works as a bit of a tinkerer.
Yeah.
But it just, when we had band practices, it was just, because it wasn't set up properly like this one is, it was just the problem child, and it's harder to get it back to behaving.
And I think as well, you've got to be careful. You know how there's this new generation of amplifiers and tech and things that you can use where it's becoming a real danger to students' practice that they spend more time faffing with settings and stuff than actually practicing.
And that's
a prime example.
That's what this. I played it for a while, and I was never satisfied with how it sounded. But again, if we get some more playing in, you can go for kind of. It's just fun to play, but you need to know how to do that kind of stuff, and I don't really. I can do a dive bomb on a pitch harmonic, but that's kind of it. But the main attraction with the Floyd Rose is the guitar it comes with.
Yes.
I think from the research I did, because I haven't lived long enough to know when they came out, so I've done some Googling, heaven forbid, the first prototype was on a modified 72 Les Paul.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Which, crazy.
Yeah.
I've seen the guitarist from a band called Thunder,
Right.
a 90s rock band, hits like Love Walked In and stuff like that.
Right.
He played a left-handed Les Paul, and one of his had a Floyd Rose on it.
Right,
Which you
okay.
could see it had been
You
cut
can
out.
get Gibsons with Floyd
can
Roses.
do it,
There's
yeah.
a Les Paul Access and stuff. So, right, okay. So, Floyd Rose, ladies and gentlemen, great if you know in the right hands
If you know,
for the
you
right
know.
people. So, let's just do a little bit of profiling.
Yep.
Student, been playing for a couple of years,
Mm-hmm.
really likes Dwayne Eddy, Eddie Cochran, rockabilly, and the sort of more sort of like vintagey kind of stuff. Which tremolo is the most appropriate? Which
Floyd
would you
Rose.
recommend?
No, it's if you like all that 50s stuff, that's what you listen to growing up, grab yourself a Bigsby, I would say.
Yeah, I think the Maestro.
The Maestro,
really well
the
as well.
Bigsby's easier to get hold of.
Yeah.
You can pick up a Gretsch for 200-300 quid. 300-400 actually. And it'll be okay. You know what? But they're harder to get hold of, and I think they're more fragile than the Bigsby.
Okay, somebody else absolutely loves like Poison, Def Leppard, this sort of 80s sort of shredder, virtuosic kind of guitar. Which one are they going for?
If you're just starting out, if you've been playing 1 or 2 years and you're just starting to get, like, you can play Pour Some Sugar and stuff like that, I'd stick to your Strat for
Right.
now.
Okay.
But then if you're really getting into, Poison and Motley Crue, you want the motorbike sound from Kickstart My Heart. If you're wanting to do that, then get yourself an Ibanez or something. Because the beauty of an Ibanez is you can spend £200, less than 200, and you can have a Floyd Rose style system to get your teeth sunk into
The
it.
lower budget Ibanez guitars are excellent for the money. I
mean,
think it's a really great place.
The
to
one we
start.
had on press loan before Christmas was cheaper than this.
Yeah.
And it did the job.
It did the job, and it said the right thing on the headstock.
Ibanez, Kramer, Jackson. See, that's when you're getting higher up.
Okay, finally, you are playing things like the Eagles, you're playing Comfortably Numb, Pink Floyd stuff, Mark Knopfler style, sort of just little flutters of the tremolo. Which one do
Keep
you
your
go for?
Strat. Yeah, Strat again once more. Use your Stratocaster for that kind of stuff. It is the most versatile guitar. They say a Telecaster can play in everything, which it can, but you need to modify a Tele heavily to have a G bender, which is where there's a big spring in the back attached to your strap. And when you drop it down, it drops the B string.
Yeah, I keep thinking about getting one, but it'll just...
Again, it's another toy, but that's the thing. You made a really good point by accident then. It's a toy, as is the Floyd Rose for 80% of players. If you actually just want a guitar to be reliable, your fixed bridge is fine. Therefore, I think the Strat comes out on top.
I spend most of my time playing fixed bridge guitars, and I very seldom come into a situation where I sort of think.
But that's the thing, when you take that out, because you can unhook that, as you can this. But
the arm doesn't live on this guitar.
no, if I unhook this to transport it, because it won't fit in the case otherwise, it's still there. There's still this scary thing at the bottom of the guitar, whereas that, I view a Strat as being almost fixed bridge when it's not installed.
I think the Fender offsets just need an honourable mention, and perhaps maybe we do a part 2 about offsets in general, because they're quite.
I think so.
We talk about Fender Jaguars, Fender Jazzmasters, Fender Mustangs.
Well, you've got
those kind of
one
things.
of each, so why don't we do that?
Yeah, let us know down below if you'd like us to do a sort of follow-up episode, because they have what they call the vintage tremolo system, which works a little bit differently. And I think is a bit of a halfway house between the Bigsby and the Strat tremolo, and I think it kind of borrows from the best of both camps. So if you'd like to see that, let us know down below. So I think we've covered everything that we need to do today, George. So just a reminder, on Saturday the 6th of June, we are running our live show. Head to the first link in the description. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about that, we have only 60 tickets up for sale, and I think we've something like 40 left. So I think when they're gone as well.
Yeah.
So make sure
it'll be worthwhile.
It's going to be a really good show. You get a chance to meet me and George and have a beer with us after the show. Loads of playing, and you could even walk out with a guitar, because we're giving away.
Yeah, giving away.
Guitars.
Yeah, so look at our cheap guitar challenge. We've done them up. I don't want to let mine go, but that's why I've left it here, so I don't have to.
So you don't
have to see it every day.
Very good. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. We'll see you next week.